Your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. That's the absolute truth. It's not my truth. It's not Tia's truth. It's your truth. And when people come to that realization, holy moly, that's liberating. It's an expansive moment of now. I don't have to go deep into where are the origins of this information. You know it in the core of yourself that this is true to you. And that's the most powerful way. I'm either contracting or expanding. It's like, is the glass half empty or full? How do you perceive your reality? Knowing that you're all these things and nothing at the same time. And that's where Taoism gives you this mirroring effect, where you realize that is all that is. You're all things and nothing at the same time.
I'm very pleased to have San Ching with me today. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you for inviting me on your podcast. It's just an amazing platform that you've been generating this community of people that are coming together to remember who they are. So thank you so much.
Thank you for that immense compliment. That means a lot coming from you. And remembering who you are, you have such an important job, an amazing job. And that's what you do is you help people remember who they are. Tell me, how do you do that? How this got started for you?
It came down to a near-death experience I had when I was a child that brought me to an understanding that there was something greater out there, where I literally was nurturing my imagination as a young boy when I had a near-death experience where I was hit head on by a drunk driver. My bike went under the car. I was flown up in the air, and literally I fell out of my body like Peter Pan. From there, this realization, after I was drawn back into my body and I continued to progress as a young boy, my curiosity for this knowing of who I am proceeded into a physical state of pursuing creativity through the form of bodybuilding and powerlifting. And then it drew me into my pursuit of meditation. And that was a very profound experience where I'd never meditated before. And I literally, within a few seconds, instantly accessed complete stillness and silence. And I was blown away by the ability that you can take this very moment and do whatever you want with it. And from there, I pursued a Taoist path and became an ordained priest in several lineages of Taoism, which nurtured my understanding of the alchemy, the energy. And now I spend my time for the last 30 years teaching people these secrets so they can return to who they are through their deeper understanding of the present moment. And from a Taoist path, that present moment comes from realizing that everything is a bellows. And so we are contracting and expanding at the same time. You're all things and nothing at the same time. And with that understanding, you can access this Wu Ji, which is the mother, the primordial mother, which is the Tao. And that symbiotic experience that you have generates this oscillating effect within this space that we call the material world as yin and yang. And when you start to realize that your life is just this oscillation between yin and yang at all times, you can then start to identify how to access this present moment. And through cultivational practices within Taoism, we do that. We focus on embodying you, empowering you, remembering who you are, bringing you back to what we call the center point, which we call the Wu Ji. That Wu Ji is the mother, the stillness between the breath in and the breath out. And from that, we access Wu Wei. Wu Wei is effortless action, effortless effort, the flow state, the ability to create is that present moment. And when you're there, you are void of time and space. It's now. And so all of a sudden your creativity will show itself in, oh my goodness, whatever the passion is that you love, that drives you to create, as that is part of you, as your contribution as an ambassador to planet Earth, as a Taoist. When you realize that, it's effortless, it's infinite, it's abundant, timeless, endless, and it's never ending. And so all of a sudden, that now moment turns into an hour, into 5 hours, into days. When people ask me, well, how are you doing? I always respond with, it's good to be me.
I love that. It's good to be me. It is good to be me as well, even though I've had so many trials and tribulations. Look at it in a different way now than I looked at it before. I want to go back to your near death experience for just a minute here before we get too far away from it, because I feel like that is oftentimes something that just opens a portal for people and they're connected to the other side from now on. Prior to your near death experience, did you have any inkling that there was something else? Like you had this connection, like in the back of your mind somewhere, or was it all just brand new at the near death experience?
Oh, it's great that you bring that up. When I was a young boy, I was basically confronted with a lot of adversity, being raised by a single parent. Much to her surprise, in this day and age, she was a radical feminist. Whether that's good or bad, that's up for you to decide. She felt like maybe she was being mind controlled, but nevertheless, I spent most of my youth around this incredible feminine energy. And that yin energy was a gateway for me to start to use my imagination, which really removes the veil between these polarizing effects of what we call duality. And so I would do things as a young boy, like look through my hand, look through the wall, and be able to see what was on the other side. And it didn't seem anything other than another day in the life of, because I wasn't given any limitations by my mother. She just would always remind me that you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And through the nurturing of Hollywood, pop culture, all these types of things as a young boy brought this attention to the imagination. And it was just a continual sort of a event that you look back in retrospect and realize that these things are happening to you all the time, reminding you of these events. 9 Lives of a Cat, perhaps, curiosity wise, I could probably collectively talk about dozens of events where I've had near death experiences, but the most profound was when I was hit head on as a young boy riding my bike. That was pretty spectacular when it comes to embodying just the imagination, yet it was very tangible and real. And understanding how to access this state of awareness is something that I do pretty much 24/7. It's like understanding the frequencies. Once you cultivate the realization that you are not this body, when you know you are not of this body, what can harm you? Nothing. And this is a point where it's so powerful, the message that you give, the message that you share with your audience, with all your guests, is how powerful that realization is. And then you can really get on with this incredible experience we call the human now moment. Because I think fear, I don't think I know, fear is a contending emotional state that really detracts and distracts the seeker. We call it a Taoist seeker, to find and return to themselves. And so the emotional state is the big one that a lot of people may find problematic, and then they find their own path to realize how powerful they are. I always remind people, never dismiss someone else's belief system because you dismiss your own. So there's always a million ways up the mountain. Most people are not familiar with the Taoist path because there's been such a steep sort of secrecy over history. And then, of course, in the last 100 years, we've been really subject to megalomaniacs that make the death and destruction after World War II look like a walk in the park, because Mao, one of the dictators within China, literally erased over 60 million of his citizens. Anything to do with old world belief systems were decimated within China. And then, of course, at the end of his reign, he realized that the Western world of New Age medicine was nowhere near as even close to holding a candle to the potential of traditional Chinese medicine, which was basically created from Taoist alchemy. And that goes back thousands of years from one of my teachers, the Yellow Emperor. And he was basically downloading the Chinese culture as you know it through his relationship with the universe. And the whispers of the universe pinned him to the earth for 18 days and nights and gave him the construct of what we know today as Chinese culture, the 7 generations of the changing of that culture through emperors, through now a very simplified language that you can get a sense of through pinyin, which is like bringing people back to an understanding of attempting to pronounce some of these words that are so powerful, they're so ancient. And when you get deep into the scripture, which we use the Tao Te Ching, it really opens gateways for the seeker. Like you really come to this visceral realization that these words are speaking to you. Now, whether it's the Tao Te Ching or the Bible or the Dharma, whatever it is that inspires you to feel that down moment. And I always remind people, if you're thinking, you're not knowing. If you're knowing, you're feeling. There's no separation for that present now. There's no time where people are taking their second to think about how they're going to digest something. They just experience it. And I've experienced that a lot with many of your guests that you bring on. You create a welcoming space that people can come in and really share and embody that and raise this frequency, my friend. I'm very grateful.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. And I like how you bring up my other guests because we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording. And sometimes when I am listening to an experience, I have this deep down memory that kind of starts to resurface just a little bit. And it doesn't all the way, it just starts to show its face where it feels like I know what they're talking about. Like I have experienced that too. And that's what you're working on is helping people realize that they're much more than what we've been taught. When we are remembering when other people are saying experiences, is that kind of proof that we're all connected, that we're all really one?
Oh, yeah. I can sense that you have a greater understanding of that sort of paradigm supernatural state of awareness. You can feel it. This is the now moment. This is when you know you're right in the center point. There's no question about it. You are now. And that charge that we're getting right now, that's evidence of it. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to process it. It's just being present. And what a lot of people tend to find is they're looking in the opposite direction. They're being misdirected to find that now moment. And when they access it, it's about holding that resonance. What's really important within a Taoist alchemy process is helping you use a method to remember who you are and generate a resonance that you can hold. Because what happens within this polarizing effect of duality that we're subject to, that resonance is not held by many people. And if you come across it, the polarizing effect is you either gravitate to it or you're repelled by it. That's just part of the construct. And so now you have to decipher, well, how do I get to what my students would say, Jeff, how do I get to that center point, the Wu Ji? Well, that comes from the mastery of yourself. That comes from your self-realized knowing. And your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. That's the absolute truth. It's not my truth. It's not Tia's truth. It's your truth. And when people come to that realization, holy moly, that's liberating. It's an expansive moment of now. I don't have to go deep into where are the origins of this information. You know it in the core of yourself that this is true to you. And that's the most powerful way. A dear friend of mine, Hans Wilhelm, would always speak on that. I'm either contracting or expanding. It's like, is the glass half empty or full? How do you perceive your reality? Knowing that you're all these things and nothing at the same time. And that's where Taoism gives you this mirroring effect, where you realize that is all that is. You're all things and nothing at the same time. If you understand that you have options, that you can make a choice, that you do have free will. The free will is the Wu Ji, is the mother, is the stillness, is the now moment, and that you are not compromised or controlled by anything. One of my teachers, Lao Tzu, would always say, no one tells you what to do, think, or say. You are the present moment, and that's the empowering now that everyone has to embody their knowing. And that knowing is the most powerful thing. And people will come to that by realizing it's servitude. And people are like, well, I want to learn all the awesome energetics and the magical stuff. And I said, listen, this is part of the side effect. Once you achieve that, there's a sense of wholeness that comes with that achievement of cultivation. And then you move to a larger state of expansion. And so people tend to pursue one thing, but then they realize that the now moment comes with that servitude, the selflessness. And people are like, how do I know that? I can guarantee you could stop right now and look back at your life, your human timeline. And there are plenty of times where you've had selfless moments where you are just in tune with humanity. You're in tune with the empathy of planet Earth, which is so powerful as a seeker when you come to that realization. And that you just give without the thought of what's in it for me. And that's where you know you're in that now moment. When you have to process it, you have to think about it. This is what my dear friend Martin, the Buddhist monk, would say, the dukkha, the distraction, the distortion of reality. This is a filtrating system that when you understand that the emotional content is an expression of your universe, as just from a simplistic point of view, you are a macro of a micro, still leans itself back to this understanding of the bellows, that everything is contracting, expanding, you're all things and nothing. You can look at these things from right down to a subatomic particle if you're a physicist that wants to explain the deeper nature of reality through a quantum model, or perhaps you just want to breathe in and out and you are there. That now moment, but then the self-realized evidence will come with your ability to create. And so that's where you start to master that energetic potential. Anything is possible, in my opinion.
I love that you bring up the service, the servitude. So many near-death experiencers come back with a strong desire to be in service, to help others in some way. And do you think ultimately that's because the truth is that we are all one? Or when we
Oh,
help others, we're helping ourselves.
100%. And that was just a beautiful epiphany that you just brought the audience to, because really when I have a student ask me this question, anyone ask me this question, when you are in service, you're in service to yourself. And so understanding this, we use an incantation from one of my teachers, the Jade Emperor. And it goes something like this: a power abundant in its giving you will receive. Unify the body with the spirit with the energy, bringing heaven to earth, transcending all is one, one is all, revealing perfection manifest. That visceral experience is the knowing, and that's all you need.
Tell me, who do you channel?
I have like 171 teachers that I channel at will. I started a relationship with my go-to teacher, Lao Tzu, about over 30 years ago. And he was the first energy and spirit that I channeled directly. And it was a banger. It was a very visceral experience because I came from a different state of awareness where it was all material. And I walked right into remembering who I was almost instantaneously. And at the time, my teacher was a little dumbfounded. He was like, I can't believe I've spent 60 years on this path and you walk in here at the time a bodybuilder and you just did it. This is a part of remembering. Everyone has that ability. I always remind people, it doesn't matter who you are. You can listen to our conversation and literally return to who you are instantaneously with not 30 years of training, not 30 years of seeking, but the now moment. And it's that possibility, the childlike state of just being that invites that present moment.
Is it possible for you to channel a message for the person that's listening, something that they need to hear today?
Yeah, let's do this. Letsu is quite excited about present moments. And when he comes in, it has a very dumbfounded, sort of profound effect on the user. Welcome, my children. How beautiful this present moment is that we speak of. The now, the resonance that you are experiencing is my presence, my helping you to remember who you are. And the visceral experience that you are having is what we speak of, the present moment. And so while you are the body, the tuning fork to your realization that anything is possible, brings you to realizing that nothing is all you need. Breathing, looking back at that reflection in the mirror that you perceive as your humanness, and taking time to realize all is one, one is all.
When we talk about being everything and nothing all at once, can you help me understand that a little bit better?
When you bring yourself to the breath, my child, when you take a breath, when you exhale, all that you need to know is that that is embodying everything that you do from the start of your day, when you wake up, to when you put your head down on a pillow at night. This is the cycle of what you are perceiving as this now moment, which is really nothing. Because guess what? You have everything within your day that has been subject to the veil of the human condition. And by taking that, by removing that, you start to accept that time and space is nothing more than a construct that is giving you the separation that you need to start something. And from starting it, you must finish it. And by finishing it, you have completed what is necessary for you to be whole. Yet when you remove that veil, you will realize that that is not necessary. You will realize that you can access this present moment by just breathing. And so the oscillating effect of being all and nothing starts with you holding your breath. And when you hold your breath, all things disappear. You will generate a resonance within you that will access higher knowing that now is everything.
Is the veil thinning? It feels like the veil is thinning for a lot of people here on Earth. There's a lot of awakenings, a lot of epiphanies. Is something happening?
Well, you can see when you look around your environment, you perceive it as good and bad, in and out, up and down. This is part of the limitation that has been giving you the misdirection. Now, the more that people awaken through the access of the breath, you will reveal that you are all things. Now, you have identified that death is real. We remind the man mortality is real. This is the obstruction. This is the distraction. And the more that people raise this awareness that death is just the beginning, that death has nothing to do with who you really are, from your surroundings, from the collective, that things are raising at a very rapid rate of awareness. You call this consciousness. Be very be very mindful, my child. Spiritual consciousness and consciousness are two different things. Don't allow someone to separate you. I am is identifying with the body. I am is a distraction from who you are. When someone uses the words conscious agency, this is also another separation.
If death is just the beginning, what happens from death?
My child, how these things get distorted through the lens of the human condition. You reveal that your imagination is the gateway to the truth. When people give you a construct of how things are perceived after you leave your body, this is very much a mistake. You must understand that there are no definitions. There is no right or wrong, up and down, in or out. So once you leave, once you are aware that you can be here, you can be there, you can be anywhere instantly. This is what we call the cultivation of the 9 frequencies. And this cultivational practice gives you the ability to be in all states, all frequencies at once, while you are present here on planet Earth. This is part of the Taoist path. This is part of you knowing.
How can we develop those 9 frequencies within ourselves?
We come back to the breath. Everything is within the breath. You can access the deepest state of knowing in these 9 frequencies by using the respiration. If you understand the cycle of conception to creation, which is reflectant on the Taoist 9, the most powerful number that we access, it will reveal itself to you. Your creation is accessible through every 9 cycles. The simplicity of this, my child, is breathe in 9, hold 9, exhale 9, and all will be revealed.
So you inhale for 9 counts, hold for 9 counts, and then exhale for 9 counts as well.
And it will instantly reveal itself to you, my child. As you feel the presence of my being, you will feel it through yourself. It will return you to your own resonance, which is part of all is one, one is all.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else that the audience may find helpful from you today?
You, my children, you are all a part of the same sea. The one grain of sand, the beach, it all reveals itself as a whole, even though it may seem separate. Reach down and take a handful of sand. Observe the detail, the beauty, the perfection that lies within your palm. Then release it, return it back to the earth, and have it be embodied. You are perfection.
Thank you so much for those beautiful messages. I appreciate it.
We will talk soon, my child.
Are you back?
Yeah.
When you channel like that, are you still present?
It can vary. It depends on if I've taken myself to be an observer or I'm off in another dimension and let him enjoy his time on the mic. And it's an incredible realization when people channel. I want people to be very aware. Imagine Star Trek, beam me up, Scotty. There is a tunnel of light that saturates the physical body. It drops into my core and it holds that presence. And that's his essence, his spirit, which permeates through the physical flesh. And most people, a lot of old school channelers that I'm familiar with, we measure this type of stuff through the physical flesh because it saturates at a subatomic level. It's a different state of awareness.
So that's a really great information. Beautiful messages. And the breathing with the counting to 9. I'm going to start that today. That I'm ready for that.
Yeah. You're just such an incredible, grounding, eternal, divine, primordial mother energy from a Taoist perspective. I'm very grateful for you.
I am very grateful for you and everything that you're doing to help others. I think it's time for people to remember who they are. And I think that will end so much self-inflicted suffering on this planet. I talked to someone today and they said, instead of using the word difficult, they use the word expansive. Instead of saying this is a difficult experience, we say it's an expansive. We're learning, we're growing. And I just fell in love with that term. And I think that's what you're doing is you're helping people expand their awareness to the truth. And that is of utmost importance.
I think we go through this path and we start seeking more, and you start realizing that there's a messaging that's coming out in all different platforms that is extremely similar, may not be the same, but it has the same incredible embodying effect where we come back to that truth, we come back to that knowing. And that expansion, as you speak of, is just returning to the bellows, returning to the contracting and expanding at all times. And there's just nothing more. You can be at all. A very, very profound realization is the Taoist always reminds themselves. When you're at your lowest, you're at your highest.
I wouldn't have believed that 20 years ago, but over time I've learned to know that that is true.
And that's the beautiful part. You've learned to know such a powerful difference between a concept. And within Lao Tzu's teaching, he starts with concept, consciousness, knowing, unconscious knowing, and then being one with all things. From a Taoist cultivational practice to acquire that state of knowing, it starts with the physical body, the energetic body, the spiritual body, the earth body, moon body, and then finally we finish with the oneness body, the ultimate body, and then being one with all things. And this energetic potential builds on itself. So you have a knowing, a self-realized knowing of who you are, and you return to that. It's not a fleeting moment. And just from your own admission, from you sharing briefly your understanding of how you acquired that knowing, this is the path that everyone needs to take for themselves, is to acquire that through your self-realization, to acquire that through your own experience. And then that validates through this visceral feeling. So when we talk about the body, it's a tuning fork to record and realize what it is that you're experiencing. And then you can validate it. So it all becomes conceptual until otherwise noted. Once you acquire that resonance and you can start repeating it, synchronicities, serendipities, things that are just magical in their nature become self-evident. And all of a sudden, this is the now moment. All of a sudden, everything that happens in your life is just effortless. As we put it within Taoism, Wu Wei, effortless action, effortless effort, the flow, the fluidity. And it's a symbiotic sort of like oscillating effect. And then you go, okay, now I know. I'm not believing in something. I'm not hoping for something, because it always starts with a hope. And then you create a belief system, and then it moves into a knowing. And that knowing is that expansion as you speak of. And it's so powerful when that seeker finds that and you go from a seeker to a knower. Oh my goodness. And then that just morphs off into that expansive moment again. I think that what you've probably realized, and I certainly have realized, is that from a negative turns a positive. And that's kind of part of what happens when you experience this duality. And to go to a non-centrist, non-dualist sort of perception, you have to develop these skills, because human condition is about starting and finishing things, which is part of the duality. If I reach out and put my hand out, your natural instinct is to reach out and shake it. There may be a conflict, but generally speaking, you'll do it without thinking, because you must complete it. It's like when you walk to a door and you open the door, you close the door behind you. It's your natural instinct of being human. And so how do you access the in-between is the very seeking that anyone goes on. And when you access it, then you know.
I know that people are going to be thinking, and probably some are going to ask, why can't it just be sunshine and rainbows and we learn everything that way? Why does it have to feel a little uncomfortable and sometimes a lot uncomfortable before we learn that that uncomfortableness is what the expansion is all about?
Well, you see, that's it. You can have reference points. Like from the beginning of this year, a lot of people would come to Latsu and say, well, what's going to happen? I mean, all this crazy stuff. It's a world war, political, all this kind of stuff. I'm not big into the polarizing effects of the human condition, but his answer was really simple. Imagine you're like a grain of sand, asking the beach, what are you doing today? Fall back into the beach and be realized. And I just went, oh, you can't make that stuff up. It's like, I just sit there and witness it. And I'm as numb as a sack of rocks, but sometimes he makes me look real smart. And so that uncomfortable moment is perception, which comes from that dualistic amplitude, which most people are saying the construct is this. So this is the part where I always tell people, when someone gives you an absolute truth about face and run in the other direction, your only absolute truth is yours. So a lot of people tend to go through, I had this out-of-body experience, I have a soul contract, this is part of me being here, which is part of the curiosity of being human, is the need to understand and know your purpose. And if you actually embody the now moment, it has nothing to do with any of that. It just is. And so if someone can handle the idea that this whole construct is designed for you to remember that now is all you have, now is everything, then what you want to call lucky, what you want to call flow, what you want to call perfection will be a second by second basis. It's about remembering that this now moment is perfection manifest. We call it the diamond. And when I have dialogue with my teachers, it's what we call the dialogue, which I then return to the monologue, which is the mother. And so all of this sort of stuff starts to stack upon itself. And the need to find purpose is the very distraction in the first place. And that's why a lot of people, when they read, say, the Tao Te Ching, which, by the way, I just transcribed the 2024 version with Latsu, and I'll send you a copy if you're interested in reading it.
I would love to read it.
Yeah. It's really, well, what it is for a Taoist seeker is, we call it the magical register. So every verse is not a verse, it's an incantation taking you deep into a remembrance. So if you remember back to that incantation I gave you from Jade Emperor, giving is receiving. That polarizing effect is part of this construct. But when you access the center point, you are abundant, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite. There is no beginning or end. And so this is part of where people get a little in their head They need to find a purpose. They need to realize that from a Taoist perspective, you're an ambassador of planet Earth to raise humanity's resonance so that people are tuned to empathy. Yet I want to remind people that that's a Taoist path. You may resonate with that. It may turn into your own path, but that doesn't mean that it's the only way up the mountain. So within Taoism, most people refer to Eastern philosophy or religion. Buddhism, Taoism are similar in the way that people relate to them, but they're quite different. From a Buddhist perspective, life is like a pile of dirt covered in diamonds. You take up another diamond to find more dirt. And as I referred to with my friend, the Buddhist monk Martin, the dukkha, the distortion, the pain, keep revealing more pain. Whereas a Taoist looks at life very simply. It's a pile of diamonds covered in dirt. You dust off a little bit more dirt and you find another diamond, which then brings us back to, well, what is it to you? Is it half full, half empty? And then the idea that you have to have a purpose, perhaps just this present moment is all you need without the title of being so deep into understanding. Whenever I witness a miracle, a healing, a manifestation, cast magic, anything like that, it's the now moment. And what comes from that is I'm no place, person, or thing. And it instantly happens. And that's why I always refer people back and offer people the construct and method of their own energetic potential. And by doing that through the alchemical process, you validate it and you fortify it for yourself. And then you're like, wow, this is not just a one time where I had a near-death experience and that I'm in constant need to desire that answer. I'm able to be in present moment. And for a Taoist, it's servitude. It seems to be a common message, but it's not the be all or end all. I've exited this state and acquire resonance. And some people might call it the dimensions. And I've gone up to 36 different frequencies, which would be 36 dimensions. And they all start with the polarizing effect of white, phosphorus white light, and then complete void. And between that separation is where we can exit into infinite possibility. And so that creates whatever you choose it to from that veil being revealed through your imagination. That's the center point. That's right here. It's like evident in everything, left and right brain, the third eye. Within Taoism, we have a thing called the dantian, which is the energetic field, which is the energy center, which someone would call a chakra. And that we have 9 eyes within the upper dantian. I would always tell people the most important thing is your truth, and your absolute truth is determined by your feeling. That's your knowing. And it really comes back to just what you just said. It's so beautiful. The expansion. I was hang on, whoa, I've got it all in front of me. Yes. And then you can create from that whatever you choose to. But then there will be those moments where you're going, hang on a second. I thought it wasn't possible. I thought hope was nothing more than a dirty word, where that hope blossoms into a belief, and that belief returns you to a knowing. And that's when all of a sudden the magic, this beautiful, effortless action, effortless effort that is this now moment. I can't be more grateful than you sharing this with the world and helping people remember, because it's just, you don't have to think about words. You don't have to create some sort of scenario in your mind. These are all distractions. And as you become more clear on your own path, you'll come to that self-realization. And so when you come across your incredible platform, wow, there's like a following. They're all moving towards their own knowing. So I can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you. That is just so incredible that it's helpful. And I really, truly hope that it's helpful for many people. That's the reason that I do this. And you're helping people in so many ways. If someone needed help from you, wanted to know or remember who they are, or maybe they just have questions for you, how can my audience reach you?
Yes, they can catch me at the Way 126 Experience channel on YouTube. or you can also find that on Instagram. And moreover, you can check out my website, The Way 126. And that is actually a little bit more of an offering that I help the seeker find. I created and imprinted all these resonances into a frequency format that's an app that you hit a button and you have 8-10 days in the Bahamas in a full body massage, and you can't understand how that's possible because it's all imprinted in the present moment. And so that helps you remember. People go, whoa, who thought that was possible? Anything is possible.
I love it. And if you had one message that you wanted the audience to take away from our conversation, what would it be?
It's quite simple. Your perfection manifests. That is your gift. That is your offer.
Thank you so much, San Ching. This is
Thank you, Tia. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your channel. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.